be going to the... Hello everyone and welcome back to game week 3 of the 24-25 Optegra Premiership, where you join myself, Ryan Sipple, for this intriguing matchup between Aspire and Greenbank. Both teams in the centre. Millie Bean, the official. Let's go through the squads quickly. Starting with the designated home team, Greenbank. They have Cody Taylor, Ellie Curran, Luke Kelly, Liam Fitzpatrick, and Jacob Buck-Platt, their coaches. Marcus Harrison and Jerry Kinsella. Obviously, Marcus Harrison not present at game week 3. So Greenbank having to adapt to life without him. Aspire coming off the back of a 1-0 defeat, comprised of Sally McNeil, Dan McClellan, John Bolden, Jordan Williams, Bobby Williams, Tom Kelly, Rosie Hodgson and John Dixon. Let's clear the graphics so you can see the court, and we are underway. So yeah, both teams coming off the back of disappointing defeats this morning. Aspire 2-1 at the hands of current league leaders, Leeds Chariots. Greenbank 1-0 to Villa Rockets. So both will be looking to get back to winning ways. Aspire now with some real ground to make up on the teams above them in the Optegra Premiership League table. But looking at the players they have, nothing is out of reach. Everything's possible. They just have to string together some results and performances. They're going to have to get that understanding going. John Dixon and Dan McClellan very close to one another. It's an altered lineup from John Bolden. He's got John Dixon behind him now, so Tom Kelly has to take a position on the bench. A real switch up. Wingers of Rosie Hodgson and Dan McClellan. Greenbank comprised of the same squad that lost to Villa: Cody Taylor, Jacob Buck-Platt, Luke Kelly and Liam Fitzpatrick. John Bolden trying to break past Luke Kelly. Bolden, cross to Dan McClellan, cut out by Jacob Buck-Platt. Beautiful pass to Liam Fitzpatrick. Just rushed his intention there. I think he could have had the option to just reverse it down that left-hand wing and allow Jacob Buck-Platt to make up some ground in the Aspire half. But already fairly open in the first 2 minutes. John Dixon now, not often I've seen him in the goalkeeper strip of Aspire, so a different role for him. It's one he's familiar with, having occupied there for Throssell's in the past, but still an adjustment as Liam Fitzpatrick fires it across the box. Pick off from Luke Kelly. As always, thank you to everyone tuning in. By all means, get your comments, your predictions in the YouTube chat. Jacob Buck-Platt down to Luke Kelly. Buck-Platt into the centre, met by John Dixon. He's going to force the ball out of play. McClellan, dispossessed by Jacob Buck-Platt. Bypassed Luke Kelly, John Bolden. Very congested in that centre. Jacob Buckplatt and Luke Kelly within a metre or so of one another. So Millie Bean with the right decision to award a 2-on-1 in Aspire's favour. They're going to want to try and get an early goal here. Leeds Chariots took the advantage twice in their earlier defeat. So if they can get off to a good start here, they can dictate the momentum of the matchup. Greenbank without Marcus Harrison is a very different looking outfit. It would be the equivalent of taking John Bolden out of this Aspire team. Obviously, there is some fantastic players on the periphery of them two in question, but the nature of power chair football being four-a-side, you take a key individual out of that situation, that lineup, it can have a real effect on momentum, on results, on performances, link-up play and more. So Greenbank, if they can just get through game week 3 with minimum damage done to their pursuit of their highest placement possible. They're obviously competing in the Premiership for the first time in the club's history. So not a great deal of expectation on their shoulders. I think ultimately for a team being promoted from the Championship, you'd say maintaining Premiership status would be paramount, would be the ultimate objective. Obviously, the acquisitions of Marcus Harrison and Liam Fitzpatrick shift that narrative slightly in way that there is more expectation. You add a world-class player to any team, irrelevant of where they are in the National League, whether that's Premiership or Championship, they would be expected to climb the ranks at a rate of knots. But for Greenbank, if they can just learn from the experiences competing in the 24-25 Premiership, ensure that they are present next season, which is almost certain to be the case, then next season that you can look to see them implement their learnings. As Rosie Hodgson fires it goal bound, it's going to go down as an own goal. Really unfortunate from Jacob Buckplatt. Had he just angled his chair out the way, it would have gone out for a goal kick. But they're them razor fine margins you see in power chair football. I'm sure Rosie Hodgson will be appealing for that, but obviously the angle of this camera is so perfect for observing that crossfield ball. So she will go down as the assist provider, and that's kind of the system we're implementing. Either way, it's Greenbank 0, Aspire 1, 7 minutes played. I said that's the start they would have wanted to make, getting on the score sheet as soon as possible to dictate momentum. Had the pleasure of commentating Newcastle versus Sevenoaks earlier today and spoke about Sam Smith and how prolific he is as the 4th all-time top goal scorer in the National League. Rosie Hodgson, the 9th, 171 National League goals. She's got about 26 or so to make up on Chris Gordon as the player above her in 8th. Chris Gordon, if he hasn't done so already, I haven't watched West Brom this weekend, has the opportunity to register his 200th National League goal. Really hoping he gets that one over the line. So many landmarks and achievements everywhere you look. Jordan Williams on the Aspire bench currently is in 10th as the all-time top goal scorer in our National League. He has 160 goals. But if you're looking at the statistics of all-time scorers, that man just striking the ball, top of the tree, 411 National League goals. It's beyond unprecedented what he's been able to achieve in his career. He is a trailblazer in every sense of the word. Well left by John Dixon. Live on Court A, Villa Rockets versus Middlesbrough. Here you're joining me for Greenbank versus Aspire, currently separated by a single goal, an own goal at that, from Jacob Buckplatt. Halfway point of this first half. Greenbank haven't done anything to really threaten John Dixon. If I hadn't observed it already, Greenbank did make a change. Ellie Curran on in place of Liam Fitzpatrick. Beautiful pass from John Bolden, likewise from Dan McClellan. I don't think Rosie Hodgson was quite expecting it. You can see the mannerisms and the actions of John Bolden there, just to say to Rosie Hodgson, push out, anticipate, get wide, get high, and look to capitalise on those cross-field balls. And she's done so brilliantly there, out of nowhere, managing to dispossess that kick-in, quickly taken by Greenbank. And she adds a goal to her already impressive National League tally. .11 gone. Greenbank 0, Aspire 2. I'll bring up the league stand-ins at the half-time break so you can see what it does to the league table. It does take Aspire 1 point behind Teesside and 2 points behind Newcastle. They would have a game in hand on Newcastle. So it's so closely contested at the top of the table, because for the first time ever, big teams are dropping points against teams other than West Brom and Aspire. Years gone by, to do no other teams a discredit, a disservice. I know we've had instances where Northern Thunder have been right in that mix, and I'm talking in the last 5-6 years. It has typically been the two-horse race between West Brom and Aspire. But this season, more than any other in recent memory, it's other teams coming into that conversation, your Teessides, your Leeds, your Newcastle United Foundations. So it just opens up the intrigue so much. Quickly taken by John Dixon. Luke Kelly now looking to get Greenbank on the front foot. Bolden intercepted by Kelly. John Bolden happy to just keep that locked up. Out of play for a goal kick. Anyone that's present at the Lee Westwood Sports Centre either today or tomorrow, if you want a beautiful gold WFA pin badge, please come and find me on the commentary gantry at courtside. Obviously, our gold pin badges are to support our newly launched WFA Benevolent Fund, a fund that has been created to safeguard the future of this sport. It's a long-term initiative, so it will take time to build, but in time we really hope it will help mitigate the financial strain and circumstances of power chair football. Anyone that knows, watches, competes, knows this isn't a cheap sport, from the specialised equipment to the travel commitments and accessibility requirements needed. But the WFA making strides to try and minimise that financial strain, and the WFA Gold Line pin badges is one of many initiatives we have implemented to support that. So much excitement wherever you look when you talk about power chair football in England, whether it is our flagship National League, whether it is the intriguing John Good Group WFA Cup, whether it's the hotly anticipated EPFA Nations Cup, for which England will be present as the reigning champions. That's taking place in September in Italy. So that man on the ball now, John Baldwin, will be looking to captain his country to 2 consecutive European Championship trophies. And that's why you're seeing him demand so much of himself and his teammates at the National League, because this directly impacts the level he'll be competing at when he's facing the Brian Vices, the Momo Galamis of the world. We referenced it on commentary earlier when we was watching Villa Rockets, how Liam Lynch is present for game week 3, having opted to test his ability in England. He's currently competing on Court A, but one of 4 Republic of Ireland internationals competing in our National League. So when you're talking about readiness, I think the Republic of Ireland internationals present at the National League will be more prepared, more ready to face tough opposition, as Rosie Hodgson once again puts herself into a fantastic area. She's so clinical, and her positioning is almost second to none in that Aspire team. But as mentioned, the Republic of Ireland internationals will be so primed to face the Englands, the Frances of the world, because this level, I am biased in saying it, but I think this is the best National League in the world. And if you can hold your own here, you can hold your own on the international stage. As another England international, Dan McClellan, looks to force his way past Jacob Book-Platt, a very promising young player on the England talent programme. Dan McClellan tries to switch play, doesn't quite get the timing, and Rosie Hodgson and John Baldwin both approaching that same ball with the same intent of keeping possession in the hands of Aspire. Greenbank escape with a 2-on-1 in their favour. 2.5 minutes remaining of this first half. Greenbank 0, Aspire 2. An own goal and a goal from Rosie Hodgson. She was key in both of them. No doubt she'll be analysing that, just trying to track the ball's trajectory to see if there's any claim that the first goal that was registered as an own goal, can be attributed to her. But as long as I don't have to get my ruler out and make sure definitively, I think it was going out of play. Either way, she'll be very happy with her contribution. Live on Court A, Villa Rockets 1 goal to the good against Middlesbrough. what a game we have next on court court A. Leeds Chariots versus Teesside. Next up on court B. I have West Bromwich Albion versus Nottinghamshire. Beautiful pass from Rosie Hodgson. Attempt on goal from Dan McClellan, fired off the back of Cody Taylor's chair. I have to say, Rosie Hodgson having a fantastic game. Any and every time she gets the ball, she's clinical, she's assertive, and she makes an impact. She's just off the ball having a conversation with John Baldwin on the far side. Dan McClellan will be just out of shot, taking this corner kick. Rosie Hodgson presents a close option. Interesting setup there from Aspire. Greenbank easily dealt with the initial set piece. Now Luke Kelly trying to break as we tick over into additional time. It's been a good half from Aspire. Good distribution from John Baldwin. Fantastic work from Rosie Hodgson. And they're going to go into the break with a 2-goal lead. Pick-off from John Baldwin will be the last action of the first 20 minutes. Greenbank 0, Aspire 2. Let's bring up the live league table as promised, and you will see that 3 points, or potential 3 points for Aspire, would take them 1 point behind Teesside and 2 points behind Newcastle United Foundation. West Brom, as you can see, 2 games in hand on Leeds Chariots in first. Should they win them games in hand, they will have a 4-point buffer come the conclusion of game week 3. But you're seeing it. Aspire on 22 points, Leeds Chariots on 27 points. You take into consideration games in hand, it's a lot closer than it looks. Likewise at the bottom, Norwich on 1 point, Nottinghamshire on 5. It just takes a run of 2 or 3 positive results, whether that's wins, whether that's draws, and the look of the table shifts completely. Thank you everyone that's tuning in. I will be back very shortly for the second half. Hello everyone and welcome back to game week 3 of the 24-25 Optegra Premiership, where you join myself, Ryan Sipple, and now alongside me, WFA chairperson Dean Williams for the second half for Greenbank versus Aspire. How are you, Dean?
Very good, Ryan. How was the first half?
Very good. A good performance for Aspire, looking to bounce back from a disappointing 2-1 defeat to Leeds Chariots earlier today. And yeah, they're good, certainly good value for their lead. They've made an alteration at the break. Jordan Williams on in place of Rosie Hodgson, and almost an immediate impact from the Aspire number 10. Beautiful pass in play. Dan McClellan firing the ball between the gaps that presented itself, and Jordan Williams should have scored there. It remains Greenbank 0, Aspire 2. Just having a conversation with Millie Bean, who is the referee for this one. She has overruled my decision to award an own goal from Jacob Bookplatt, and she's given both to Rosie Hodgson. So she was fantastic in the first half. I'm not saying she's not good value for it, but whether or not she knows, I don't know, because I'm sure she would have had something to say about being substituted at the break, being on for a hat-trick.
She might argue that the curve of the ball is something that we didn't see there.
Very potential, very potentially, but either way, she was so clinical, so effective in that first half, and she's the reason they've got this comfortable 2-goal margin. But we know the quality that Luke Kelly and Jacob Bookplatt have to influence results in their favour. They've got a metaphorical mountain to climb in this second, but they've still got time. They'll want to restrict further damage from Aspire, who have come out the traps in the first few minutes, looking to add to their 2-goal margin.
And just the reaction they needed after that defeat earlier today.
Yeah, I mean, it was, for them, a very disappointing 2-1 loss. But it was so close, and it could have gone either way. So that is one point. But another being the context of where Leeds Chariots are in the standings, top of the table.
But isn't football interesting? So a bit of doom and gloom after that game from a Aspire perspective. Then you currently see them, if they hold on to this lead, you see them in 5th place with 22 points. Leeds Chariots on 27 points. They've got a game in hand on Leeds Chariots, which will put it to potentially 25.
I went through all the scenarios
Crazy.
in the break, and how if they win their game in hand, they're right in and around Newcastle and Teesside. So I went on to talk about in the first half how of years gone by we've seen it be a 2 or 3 horse race. It's completely shifted in 24-25, and you're seeing teams that would have been on the fringes of a title challenge in your Teessides, your Newcastles, your Leeds Chariots really come to the fore, and we could have a 5-horse race, because you're seeing the top teams, you're seeing any number of the top teams take points off each other, which has never necessarily been the case. I had a conversation with Jeff Lewis following Aspire's earlier defeat to Leeds Chariots. You know, that's, I think, only the second or third time they've lost 2 consecutive games in the National League ever.
Is that right? Wow.
And I don't believe to be confirmed, but I think he said they've never lost 3 in a row.
Wow.
So it shows just the level they've been performing at for nearly 20 years, which is fairly remarkable.
And they're not on show here at this moment, obviously, but one thing that caught my eye earlier was a very intense pre-match training session of Newcastle United. Honestly, I was blown away by that. And they've turned up this weekend possessed.
in the 2-on-1 Power Chair Football podcast. We did our Premiership predictions, myself and Alex Dowding, and I had Newcastle to win it.
Yeah.
I had Newcastle to win it, and I had Ethan Fisher to be the player of the season. And whilst they still have a little bit of ground to make up on the teams above them, they are in that conversation. There is no question about it. Dan McClellan is going to guide it over the line. Just trying to understand the official's decision. A goal has been awarded. Good, persistent work. Jordan Williams will get the assist. Dan McClellan, the goal scorer. Greenbank 0, Aspire 3. What I was going to go on to say is Newcastle United Foundation have had 2 very tough opening 2 weekends in the National League, and they've got more favourable fixture lists in game weeks 3 and 4. So if they're going to make up ground on the teams above them, now is the time to do so. I think all of their opposition this weekend at the time they were playing them, or are to play them, will be in the bottom third of the Premiership standings. So they'll be looking for a maximum point weekend.
That's interesting. All of this, of course, equals a wonderful season of competition for the Premiership.
It certainly is. It certainly is. Nice pass from Luke Kelly. Just takes a very late deflection out of the path of Ellie Curran. John Dixon has had a very quiet game sporting the unfamiliar goalkeeper jersey. His time certainly spent at Aspire has been in a more attacking winger role. He's going to be called into defensive duties here. Jacob Buck-Platt advancing into this final third, probably just out of your shot. Ellie Curran does well to vacate the space on the right as you're viewing it, the left of Greenbank. Dan McClellan, just beautiful feint, just to deceive and mask his intent. He's been competing at such a high level for 2 or 3 years now, Dan McClellan. People forget he's just 16 years of age and he's already been present in an England World Cup squad, as well as several home nation tournaments. He will have the ultimate objective of being on that plane to Italy. Got the World Cup on my brain. Come September, where England will be defending their European Championship, the EPFA Nations Cup. But could you imagine representing your country at a European Championships and a World Cup before you've even turned 17 years of age?
Amazing.
That is unprecedented, and that's where we want to bring Power Chair Football into the spotlight with the support of the Football Association and other stakeholders, that you've got players of an age where just the level of maturity and mentality needed is scary to think that Dan McClellan most particularly has the mentality and the maturity at 16 years of age to represent his country and perform at the highest level. I couldn't even think about what I was doing at 16 years of age.
And I think maturity is a really good word, isn't it, for Dan? Because he does not, I mean this in a very, very positive way. He's mature beyond his years, 100%. I had the privilege at being at the England camp at Liddeshaw a few weeks ago, and Dan was there, and I spoke to Dan's father, and he was talking about his obsession with the game, literally obsessed, studying it at all levels. And there's sometimes no secrets in that. The fact that he studies it so avidly will certainly help his maturity around the game.
That most definitely, but you have to give credit to his wider family and the support system around him. Obviously, Charlie McClellan, that's a beautiful pass. Charlie McClellan, an avid Power Chair Football fan and supporter of Dan, supports us with commentary. Fantastic commentator. You've got James and Deborah who just surround him with support and encouragement, and he's absolutely thriving from that. Must be so proud of what he's achieved. I mean, even when you look at Charlie, He and I commentated the World Cup final alongside each other. So you're talking about a power chair football mad family. Look no further than the McClellans.
Intrinsically linked in power chair football.
It absolutely is the case. Charlie will be present tomorrow to support us with commentary.
Oh, lovely.
So I'm sure people will be happy to hear that. I've no doubt he has family tuning into this one.
And on that note, I must mention, I think it's Dan's Nan, who quite often posts alongside our socials. So
Jordan Williams tries to attempt an effort, well defended by Cody Taylor. Just switched positions. It's a fluid approach from Aspire. Dan McClellan taking the position in the centre. We talk about Dan McClellan and his development and maturity, I think, as well as his family. You have to say the role model he has in John Balding to learn from each and every day has got to be such a game changer.
Yeah, there's no question about that, is there, John? I mean, what else can you say about... We have to be careful of this, because it feels like we said everything we could possibly say about John Balding and his quality, whether that's to do with his statistics, but also the way that he handles himself and his characteristics, his leadership. I mean, honestly, where do we stop with that guy? So 100% Ryan, if you can't learn from somebody like that, then there's something drastically wrong.
Substitution for Greenbank. Liam Fitzpatrick on, Jacob Buck-Platt off. Just under 9 minutes remaining. Aspire yet to look to their substitute bench. Tom Kelly, Sully McNeil, Bobby Williams and Rosie Hodgson all itching to get on the court. As mentioned, just at the start of this second half, both first half goals have been attributed to Rosie Hodgson, so she's on to register her hat-trick. And the official on the far side has his flag up to signal a substitute. Looks like it's going to be for Aspire. Sally McNeil and Bobby Williams on, and Tom Kelly, a triple change. So Bobby Williams, Tom Kelly and Sally McNeil on, Jordan Williams, Dan McClellan and John Dixon off. Bobby Williams with his first involvement. Can't quite wrap his chair around that to keep it in play.
Didn't see the first half, Ryan, obviously, but they looked very controlled here. Exactly that reaction they were looking for, and certainly with John, he'd have been looking for that after that defeat.
Certainly in terms of attacking intent, they've been a little bit more reserved, relatively speaking, in this second, which I'm sure is to the delight of Greenbank, who are just struggling to nullify John Balding and Rosie Hodgson. It's the first real chance Greenbank have had all game. They're going to have another attempt here. Luke Kelly fired into the side of John Balding. This is much better from Greenbank. I want them to be considerate of positioning. Very congested. Liam Fitzpatrick trapped in that top right-hand corner. Has to vacate the space. Luke Kelly nearly has another attempt at goal. Loves those 180s on the edge of the box. A very frantic couple of minutes. Fitzpatrick into Ellie Curran, pick off. An attempt at goal, but nothing to really trouble John Balding. A little bit of contact between Curran and Balding. Play continues. Balding's going to try and break this very high press from Greenbank, committing players forward to try and half the deficit. Not even half the deficit, it's 3-0 now. So, barring a really late rally, a goal for Greenbank would probably be nothing more than a consolation.
You must have mentioned it already. Marcus is a miss, is he not?
Very much so. I did mention it in the first half, and I said for Greenbank it's probably the equivalent of taking John Baldwin out of this Aspire team. They've got some fantastic players in and around their squad, but you take a world-class player out of any team, no matter what format of sport, football you look at, it makes a huge difference, even more so when you've got a four-a-side format of the game. So, yeah, a real miss for Greenbank, but they're adapting well. They're putting on a good show. And they've had two tough opponents to start game week 3. You can see the frustration there from Ellie Curran. Just shows how passionate and how driven she is, as well as her teammates.
We should wish, I'm sure you have, Ryan, wish Marcus a speedy recovery.
Absolutely. Greenbank have one more game to contest today against Middlesbrough, which probably presents them their most credible opportunity to register points. Still going to be a very competitive game. It's 1-0 to Villa Rockets against Middlesbrough on Court A currently. So that one will be intriguing. Tomorrow they play Sevenoaks and Leeds Chariot. So in terms of a 5-game weekend, they don't come much tougher.
No, that's a toughie.
But that's... I repeat myself so much about how competitive it is, how tough opponents are. That's the case for pretty much any team, no matter who you face.
Yeah, some league this. Just looking up West Brom, the only undefeated team in the Premiership this season.
Yeah, I think certainly if you're considering the current standings and games in hand, you have to say they're probably favourites to end game week 3 at the top of the table. They've had a favourable fixture list, but tomorrow will be the real test for West Brom. They play league leaders, Leeds Chariots, before Aspire. So,
yes.
and then that will be followed by a close rival in West Bromwich Albion Throstles. So, of three games to play tomorrow, 3 incredibly tough ones at that. If they come through that unscathed, you have to probably consider them title favourites.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. It's a big day, isn't it, tomorrow?
Jacob Bookplatt back on. Luke Kelly, the player, coming off. Final few minutes. Fitzpatrick just cushions. He just get caught in two minds there and just engaged that ball when he didn't intend to do so. So an immediate dispossess. Sally McNeil, they've got an overload now. As Sally McNeil takes possession on the left-hand wing. She has 2 players in support. A very strange setup from Greenbank here. Obviously committing so many players forward, trying to get a consolation that they left huge vulnerabilities in behind. They've readjusted now and regrouped, but an opportunity there for Aspire to register their 4th. I really think that the Premiership standings, a lot of positions will be decided by goal difference when you're seeing how closely matched teams are in terms of point accumulation. I'm not necessarily saying the top 2 positions will be decided by goal difference, but you could see teams below them and towards the bottom of the table being decided by more favourable goal differences. So whilst this is almost a certain 3 points for Aspire, they'll want to try and get further goals to help their chances should it come down to that factor come the conclusion of game week 5.
That's a good point. So they're some way adrift with their goal difference. 14 plus 14 goal difference compared to Teesside 28, Newcastle 22, West Brom 31, Leeds Chariot 26.
And it can shift in a second. I mean, Newcastle have played 2 games today. they've scored 9 without reply. So prior to today kicking off, their goal difference wasn't as healthy as it appears currently. So it just needs a few comprehensive wins, and your goal difference can really change. You've obviously only been present for the second half, but what you've seen, your player of the match.
It's tricky. From what I've seen, it may be different to who should be getting a player of the match. So I think Rosie, if she's got 2 goals, she's obviously in with a shout. Dan McClellan I was very impressed with, although he's been off the pitch for a little while now. I'm going to give it to, purely based on, just see this action out, purely based on leadership after a tough game and defeat, John Boulding.
Yeah, obviously, John, such a fantastic presence. I will just commend Rosie Hodgson. She's obviously hasn't featured in this second half, but her contributions in that first 20 were absolutely brilliant. She's been attributed both goals, and she's very good value for it, so she'll be a key player for them. They're obviously trying to compensate for the lack of goals from the recently departed Brad Bates, who now plying his trade at West Brom. So it's now a collective responsibility of the wide attacking players of Aspire to try and make up for that deficit. But a fantastic win, fantastic 3 points. It ends Greenbank 0, Aspire 3. Let's show you the live league table. We're constantly referencing it. You can see it as it currently sits. Aspire played 10. They've won 7. They've drawn 1, lost 2. 22 points to their name. You're seeing how close it is. 22, 23, 24 for positions 5, 4 and 3rd, respectively. But thank you to all that are tuning in to Game Week 3 of the 24-25 Optegra Premiership. Next up, on Court B, we have West Brom versus Nottinghamshire, and a really highly anticipated fixture on Court A. League leaders Leeds Chariots take on Teesside, and that one scheduled to kick off in just under 20 minutes time. Thank you all. We'll be back very shortly.